Welcome to Choreography, a podcast about the greatest sport on ice, figure skating. I'm Wendy Buskey.
And I'm Adrian Buskey, and we have a lot to cover this time. We have three, still, I guess, I still think of this as the preseason. It's probably the season is on, but for me, it's like the Grand Prix is when things like are really kicked in and the Challenger Series is really in effect, but there's a lot happening.
I don't think this Challenger Series is preseason anymore. I feel like it is official.
It's on.
We are on.
It's on. So we have three events to talk about. We have Kinoshita Cup out of Osaka, Japan. We have the John Nix Pairs Challenge, which, as it sounds, is just a pairs competition. And then also the Bolero Cup, which was a ice dance competition. There's a lot of big names who competed at all of these events and a lot to cover and a few really interesting things that came out of them. So why don't we get started with the John Nix Pairs competition, because that's the one that happened first. It was in the middle of the week. In fact, it was happening while we released our last episode.
It feels like a year ago.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's possible, but it really does.
It was a long week with a lot of stuff, and we had to, we're catching up on these things when we can, and you're hunting through YouTube trying to find all of the performances and stuff, and a lot of the quality isn't particularly great, and you're at the mercy of whoever. In the case of the John Nix Challenge, was just finding somebody who was literally filming probably with their phone from the side of the boards. And thankfully they did, so we could watch all of it. And we could see our first look at the Canadian reigning national champions and former world champions, Deanna Stellato-Dudek and Maxime Deschamps.
And we saw them do something brand new, which was an assisted backflip in their short program. I was not expecting that. I don't know if it's the first in competition ever. I think it was based on their post, but I admit I have not done the research because, as Adrian mentioned, busy week.
Yeah.
But regardless, very cool, extremely ballsy is the word I will use. I couldn't help but watch it and just think of how gutsy Deanna Stellato-Dudek is. Because whether you love backflips or you are anti-backflip, take that out. Think about the fact that she is in her 40s, a former world champion now, and just saying, screw it, in the Olympic season, we're going to do a backflip, because why not?
Yeah, it definitely spices things up. My understanding is that this type of pairs maneuver has been done at least in exhibition competitions before.
Yeah, for sure.
Or maybe not in international competition. But I also did not do enough of a deep dive to really see. It's definitely the first time I've seen this happen before.
Same.
And they look strong here in general. If you could go beyond that, which for one thing, that was in the middle of the short program, which I thought was really cool, because when I saw it first kind of shared on Instagram, I saw it like the video start there, and I wondered if it was like the very first maneuver in the program, which I was like, that feels a little bit more gimmicky. This happening kind of in the middle is this exciting acrobatic element, and I liked it. I tend to be pro backflip. I understand why some people don't care for them, whether it makes them nervous because it feels dangerous. A lot of figure skating is dangerous, so it's just one more thing in there.
I think a lot of people just see it as unnecessary.
Unnecessary or unartistic. I think for some people it's not an aesthetic element, and it doesn't feel like a dance movement. And
it just doesn't require skating skills as much as it does just acrobatics. But that it's all arguable and it's all subjective. So again, that's why I say, regardless of your feelings on it, it was just interesting and really gutsy to try it in the middle of a short program in their Olympic season.
Yeah, I think it's pretty fascinating. In general, I thought that Deanna and Max looked really strong here. I think that the programs, like almost everybody's, don't look fully complete yet. Like they're still getting used to them. I mean, for pretty much everybody at this stage of things are relatively new into the program, still figuring out all of the kinks, figuring out if the layouts are set out correctly. And in general, though, for Deanna and Max, I thought that they looked very efficient in what they were doing out there, minus a few little problems. They already looked very strong. And I think that doing this backflip in this program sends that message that they are trying to really set themselves apart from the pack this season by doing something fresh and interesting, because pairs has gotten very competitive over the last couple of years.
Extremely.
And as we'll talk about when we get to like Kinoshita Cup, there was some really good competition happening at that event. So they came out of here first after both the short and the free, as you would expect from this team, with a 199.43 strong score. Definitely could be doing better than that, but still a solid number. And then we saw the program debuts, I believe, from the US's Alyssa Efimova and Misha Mitrofanov.
Yeah, and I thought they also looked really strong. And like you said, it definitely still feels like everyone we talk about today, there's this like asterisk next to almost every single name that is the, yeah, but, this is still early and there's a lot of turnouts of jumps. There's a lot of hands down. There's the occasional moment where they don't quite look like they know where they're at. But that's totally fair. It's still September.
Yeah.
Like, this is very early. That said, I really like these two new programs on them. I think they've just come into their own so much. Like, Alyssa and Misha, I really feel like are that team where they can be on world podiums, but they just have to, I hate to use the like wait their turn, but I feel like I don't think it's a hierarchy thing. I think it's just waiting until they can get to that level. I feel like they just keep stair stepping towards it and they're going to get there. They are exceptional. It's just not quite there yet.
I think that when you look at the rapid improvement of Misha Mitrofanov over the last couple of years, he has grown and developed to match Alyssa's capabilities and style in a way that is really impressive, has come so far, and is become really enjoyable. I think that there are two programs here. I like the short program a little bit more because it feels a little bit more done. The free skate is the one that a lot of people have been talking about because it is an homage to Katerina Gordieva and Sergei Grinkov, the love story program from the 90s, 30th year anniversary of that. They worked with Katya to put this together because
it's beautiful.
It is a beautiful program. And I think for me, because I wasn't a skating fan in the 90s, I don't have like a big emotional connection to that. So I don't have that kind of built in, but I still really liked it. I still thought it was lovely. Like, I can't look at Alyssa Efimova and say, oh, she reminds me of Katya Gordieva, because I wasn't around for that to see her in action. So I can't make that comparison. But I do think it's a really beautiful program. I just think at this event, the short program kind of grabbed me a little bit more and I was very into it. But I still just love having this team as our reigning national champions here in the US right now, because stylistically, I really enjoy them. I love their connection on the ice. And in general, I just like their skating a lot.
Agreed. Well, in the third and fourth spots, having Katie McBeath and Danielle Parkman and Emily Chan and Spencer Akira Howe, two other really strong, solid American teams, it really starts begging the question of who is that next in line American team. This competition felt like it was important for the season, especially leading into that Beijing Olympic qualifier that is coming up really fast.
Yeah, and I think that this event raises a pretty significant question mark.
Of who goes?
Yes.
Because it had been Audrey Shin and Balazs Naj who had been given the nod. And as far as I know, they are still the team going to Beijing.
And they were chosen because they had done really well at Champs Camp.
Apparently, yes. Watching them here, though, was disappointing.
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a second. I do want to say just a little bit more just about how much I enjoyed Katie McBeath and Danielle Parkman here.
Yes.
This is a team that we've talked about before. They don't have an artistic identity in the way that some of the other teams do.
But they are solid.
They're very solid. They're very competent skaters. I'm always impressed at Danielle's power and footwork. And just Katie McBeath's drive to make it happen, I feel like her bright personality, and as somebody was started in singles and then made her way into pairs and has been around for a long time, the tenacity that she shows, I really appreciate. I liked their stuff here a lot. I thought that even though there's only like a 4-point separation between them and Shannon Howe looked way messier than them. And McBeath and Parkman, I think, really earned that third spot here. And ever since they got on the podium at Nationals, I feel like this team is hungry to really prove that that's not a fluke and that they can make waves through the rest of the season. they are very unlikely to be eligible for the Olympics because Danil does not have citizenship. And it's that same problem that Alyssa and Misha have as well, because Alyssa does not have citizenship. It really leaves some massive question marks. But for McBeath and Parkman, I thought they did solidly here. But Chan and Howe,
they're just the more artistic, complete team
Yeah.
at this point. And that's not to take anything away from Katie and Daniil. I think they're getting there. It's just they're a newer team. They're growing. Emily and Spencer have been together a long time. They have a lot more experience together, especially in international competition. I agree. They were messier here, but they have a lot more flow. They have a lot more connection to the music that they're skating to. It's kind of apples and oranges, kind of watching them. They're
very,
so
very
different.
teams. Yeah.
However, I was happy considering for a couple of seasons, we've been seeing that, Emily and Spencer have been coming back from a major injury that Spencer had to his shoulder. And so even seeing them messy here, it was still better. Like, it was nice to see a step forward and kind of getting them secure, as they go through this season, because they're going to be fighting for a spot at the Olympic Games because they can go. It's such a crapshoot at this point of who can. This to me felt like a solid start for them.
Yeah. And I've got to think that this is Chan and Howe's final season.
It has to be, right?
That's my expectation. And I feel like they're one of those teams that is hanging on and holding out for the Olympics. I think there's a very good chance that they could be making that trip when the time comes. But here, a lot of these programs looked very loose yet and had places where they didn't entirely seem like they knew where they were.
Going back, we have so much to cover. I'm trying to keep us going. There's two other teams here that are U.S. teams that I want to mention specifically because they were 6th and 7th. It's Chelsea Liu and Ryan Bedard. First look at them for us.
The totally surprised team. We had no idea until a couple weeks ago that this team even existed as a grouping. Chelsea Liu having been Balazs Naj's former partner.
Right.
And Ryan Bedard had a previous partner as well that he'd skated with forever. And we did not know that he had separated from his previous partner or gotten together with Chelsea. This was a complete surprise and really nice to see because I like both of them. Chelsea Liu has been one of the most beautiful pairs partners in the air during the previous seasons when we would see her, but she doesn't land jumps well. The singles elements are challenging for her, and that doesn't seem to have changed too much. But as a pair, they look pretty nice together.
I thought so too. They matched more than I would have expected. I'm really curious to see how they grow together. I think it's a good match and we'll have to see how it goes. But I thought that they performed for being their first international. I liked it. I thought it was great.
I think it's also worth noting that coming in here as a completely fresh and new team, they beat Chelsea's former partner, Balazs, and his current partner, Audrey Shin, by 3 points out in this first appearance. And I think that's pretty surprising.
It's very surprising. And it's also what I wanted to focus on in terms of that Beijing Olympic qualifier, because with Audrey and Balazs having done well enough at Champs Camp to have gotten the nod to be the team that represents the U.S. to hopefully earn a third pair spot, after watching them here, I'm concerned. I really have a lot of love for this team and I believe in them as a team, but that competition is only 2 more weeks away. And I don't know that I feel a ton of confidence in them getting there by then. By nationals, I expect that they're going to be much more solid, but in 2 weeks, I'm a little worried. I don't know that that's the right call.
There were a couple of moments in these performances from Shin and Naj that I felt like they forgot they were in a competition and weren't just training. There was a fall at one point where Ashley got up and very nonchalantly sort of corrected her outfit and skated back over to Balazs. It was during some side-by-side jumps, and he also looked kind of lost at the end of it. And it looked like the kind of thing that happens when you're just not quite settled into a program yet, but neither of them seemed to have that urgency to jump back into the program like you would expect during a competition. And I just don't know if that's the nature of it being such a small event. I mean, I didn't see risers at this event, right? It was just a club.
Might have been on one side, but it was also the view that we were seeing from somebody who was filming from those stands.
Yeah, all we could see were the boards. All we could see were people standing, other skaters standing along the. It seemed like it was skaters and coaches who were the audience for this. So I could understand why you could kind of mentally check out of an event like this. It doesn't feel like a real competition.
Absolutely.
Just because of the setting. But it was a bit concerning, and it was a lot messier than I would hope for. And I'm hoping that they are correcting that solidly as they get ready for that qualifier event.
We will see how things progress. But I want to move us on to the Kinoshita Cup, a challenger event as well that happened in Osaka, Japan. There was a lot of people here. This was a full men's, women's pairs dance and a lot of big names. But not surprisingly, I want to start with the men because I want to talk about Junwon Cha.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, Junwon Cha takes the
priority.
Takes the priority. He also takes the top of the podium at this event. I think for the men here, this is a little bit of a softer event. When Junwon wins this, he does it with a 253.31. You know, that is well back from the types of competitive scores we're going to be looking for later in the season. And notably,
it's soft for him specifically.
It's soft for him specifically. And he had a lot of troubles in that free skate. And so there were a lot of pop jumps. I believe there was a fall in his short program. So we're not looking at the ceiling for these programs as far as the scores go. He will be able to get a lot higher.
Yes.
But still getting a look at these two programs. He starts off with that short program that he performs to Rain in Your Black Eyes, which of course has become kind of a warhorse kind of song, but it works on him really well.
Yes.
I like that program a lot.
I thought it was great. It was super solid, but I gotta admit, I'm always a little questionable these days on a Moulin Rouge program. I am not questionable on his Moulin Rouge program, especially when he gets into kind of the middle part of his free skate and it moves into the tango. Love the footwork sequence. I think that whenever it is more polished and refined is going to be phenomenal.
I was a little disappointed just because initially it was being described as Queen in Moulin Rouge because it starts off with Show Must Go On, but it is the Moulin Rouge version of that song, which is fine. The Queen song is one of my favorites, and that was what I was hoping for.
Yeah.
But overall, I think that while it needs some layout tweaks, and I think there's a few places where you could see he wasn't quite on the beat just yet. There's several moments where he doesn't match the rhythm of the songs perfectly, and he misses some kind of obvious points to really, hit with the choreography. It's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress, and June is exceptional at hitting beats of music, and you can tell the choreography is designed to enable that. It is meant to show off all of June's abilities and his best qualities, and I really do feel like in 2 months, this is going to be a different program, and it's going to be so good. It suits him and his drama so beautifully.
It's also worth noting, let me just I'm going to read off the top 10 here because I think that's also going to contextualize the second and third placements.
Sure.
So second was Japan's Kazuki Tomono. Third was Tomoki Hiwatashi from the US. Fourth was Sota Yamamoto. So great to see Sota again. Fifth, Tatsuya Saboi from Japan. Sixth, Korea's Jae-Hoon Lee. Seventh was Canada's Alexa Rakic. Eighth was Kalmura from Japan. Ninth was Seong Lee from Korea, who had not done well in the short program, but had an excellent free skate, which he was actually second in the free skate, but still landed ninth overall. And then 10th was the US's Jimmy Ma, who had a strong short program, but fell apart in the free again, which is unfortunately a pattern we've already seen kind of start up for the season. Hopefully stops here. But I say all of that. I don't normally do that rundown like that, but just kind of show there was a lot of talent here, both young up-and-comers and some really strong people, like, say, a Kalmura, who typically we would expect to land a lot higher than the eighth he got here. But Kazuki Tomono in second and Tomoki Hiwatashi in third are not the names I would have picked for the rest of that podium.
No.
And they're nearly tied. It was 236.78 for Kazuki. Tomoki was a 236.71. So very, very close for the two of them. Kazuki, of course, is such a wonderful skater with so much personality, but Tomoki is a lot more just generally kind of volatile. And so to see him come here and deliver really well, it was really nice to see.
It's so interesting that they were so close because they could not be less similar. Kazuki has such flow, and he is such a character skater. And that's why I love Kazuki Tomono. He is an artist out there. His short program is this kind of poppy, rocky, very funky is the word I guess I should use. It's very unique. It's very Kazuki. Feels very similar to some of his more gala programs.
Definitely.
But it suits him perfectly. I really like his free skate. It shows that introspective, artistic side of Kazuki. It has beautiful flow. I would have loved it had he been a little cleaner and a little more put together. But again, first competition of the season, not a big deal. I was just happy to see him on the podium here, honestly.
Yeah.
But with Tomoki, it was definitely a surprise. And while he almost ran into the boards in the free during one of his jumps, he was almost clean. So it's not surprising on the technical side that Tomoki was up on that podium because he landed more of his jumps than anybody else.
And Tomoki's a powerful skater. He can get a little wild sometimes.
His technique is Tomoki.
Yeah.
Like I
But he is committed and he is energetic. There is something stylistically that reminds me a little bit of Jimmy Ma to a degree, as far as they both go hard.
Yes.
And kind of like Cow to a degree as well. But the free skate from Tomoki, set to a couple of different versions of Radiohead's Creep, really suited him very well, gave him a lot of melodic room and build to work with, and he did it really nicely. The Japanese crowd, as always, was amazing, but they were very into that program, which was nice to see. And while Tomoki is from the US, he does train in Japan, so he is, in familiar territory here as well. But to see him on a podium at a significant event this early in the season was really great.
It's wonderful for him. And to the point you were making about not the podium I expected, fourth and fifth, you saw Sota Yamamoto, who is usually a little bit higher, especially early in the season. He tends to shine the most. And Tetsuya Tsuboi in fifth. Again, he had a really strong season last year as well. So it was nice to see both of them do well here, but not as well as we expect to see them later in the season.
Yeah, I mean, you see that volatility in the men's lineup here, where you've got people who were 13th and in the short and then second in the free, and you really kind of get jumbled around quite a lot.
Well, yeah, like Soto was in third after the short and then sixth in the free, so he ended up off the podium. But I also saw, I believe it was Kazuki was talking about the fact that Soto was ill during this competition. So
running theme we're going to talk about in a few other places here.
There's quite a few people that did not look so hot.
Yeah, but I do want to give some props to Seong Lee for his free skate because he looked super strong in that skate, way more confident than we've seen for a while. The crowd ate it up. It was performed beautifully. And Seong is also a bit of an inconsistent skater, but when he's on, he's great, and he was really on in that free skate.
Yeah, I want to show a little bit of love to the short program from Jimmy Ma. I want that free skate to come together, or for him to go back to a different free program. That would also be okay, but that short program is killer.
Yeah, do love that one for sure.
Let's move on to the pairs, because we saw our first look at Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara. And they won by 10 points plus and were mostly, other than like a few small errors, like I think she fell on one throw, they looked fabulous.
Yes. Riku and Ryuichi brought back that Paint It Black short program.
Yes.
That's a great choice. That program looked so good on them. It looks even better now, at least based on this performance, because it was so good. All of the qualities that make this a fantastic team, their incredible speed, their connection to each other, their musicality was all on display in both the programs here. So that Paint It Black program was absolutely dynamite. The free skate, maybe even better, had a couple of little mechanical problems, but also some new tiny innovations in their lifts and some other little elements that I enjoyed a ton. It feels tailor-made for an Italian audience at the Olympics and ends with a final pose where Ryu is literally overhead pressing Riku above his head in the final pose, which makes a dramatic final position and vision, but seems to tax him a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Our poor Ryu looked like he was going to die on the ice right after that lift was put down. And lovely, sweet Riku was just trying to lift him up in his spirit and his body because that poor man looked like he was going to fall down. And she got him off the ice and He looked happy, but also like he really, really needed a nap.
Riku looked like she could have done another run through.
Yes.
She was caffeinated and ready to go, and he was ready to be carted off. But yeah, terrific showing from them. I was super happy with it. Really nice showing in the home crowd.
And a 222.94 is a good score.
Yes, a 222.90 for their composite here. Really, really strong, but there were a few mistakes in there, so their ceiling is higher.
For sure.
And that sets them up really nicely as they go through the rest of the season. It shows that international judges are picking up what they're putting down.
I'm glad they are. In second here, not surprisingly, was Anastasia Metelkina and Luca Berilava. They had a 212.90. Very nice score for them.
Yeah.
Both of their programs looked strong. They had some minor errors, nothing like dramatic, but especially their singles elements in the free looked a little bit messy.
Yeah, Luca had a fall on one of them and a little bit of a turnout in another. So yeah, some of those were a little loose right now.
But other than that, I mean, the throws looked fantastic from
So
Anastasia. I think that their Bolero short program, their opening pose where she's doing a full headstand is fascinating. And I do like that program. I thought that their Bolero was good. Their free, I thought was strong, but again, I just don't feel any connection with them, like together, like with each other. And it's something I've struggled with this team. Like they're extremely good at what they're doing. They are highly competent and effective skaters, but I want to feel something a little bit more from them. And I know that it could be there, like, because they have some of the more stunning elements, like her running edge on landings, some of their lifts. Like there's so much that's good. I just want to like it emotionally a little bit more. Also, music choices, strange.
So I think we differ a little bit on that because you struggled a bit with their free skate and the edit and the musical choices and the songs and how they're stitched together. I had no problems with it. That musical thing worked perfectly fine for me.
Even with the phone ringing?
The phone ringing and the sirens, I don't understand thematically what that is supposed to be referencing.
Sure,
and I don't know if there's a movie or something, but I don't know. But I didn't mind it. And the transition to the vocal song at the end didn't bother me in the slightest. I was okay with all that. But I do agree that the connection or lack thereof continues to be a problem for this team because they are as physically well matched as almost any pairs team I've ever seen. You know, they move so similarly. They have so many strengths between the two of them, but they just never really seem to connect to each other. And as you get into some of those more dramatic pieces, that is always kind of a liability when you don't seem to have that charisma in that way.
I was happy to see the lack of kitsch.
Yes, I think that when we talked about them earlier this summer, I had said that what I wanted to see from them were programs that didn't feel as camp or as kitschy or as kind of silly as what we've seen from them in previous seasons. Some of that I kind of wonder, they were still competing in juniors for a long time, which felt really odd because they just felt too old for it, even though they technically did fall within the ranks of who could compete in juniors. But I felt like sometimes they were still doing programs that were kind of aimed at the junior judge versus the senior. And this time they're skating senior programs. And
Yes.
I'm really happy to see it. I think they are better selected. And I think that as the season goes on, I think they're going to get even stronger on them. And I think that 212.9 showing here is really solid.
I agree. But my favorites, much to my surprise, Yuna Nagoka and Sumitada Muraguchi. They were so improved. They get like a gold star for whatever they did over the summer. I don't know what it is, but I am so impressed. I loved them.
Nagaoka and Muraguchi here were delightful.
So great.
Such an extraordinary improvement over the last season. They looked so connected. All of their elements were so much stronger.
Their Elton John Yellow Brick Road short program, from the costumes to the choreo, I'm eating it up. I love it. And the joy in their free skate. The crowd was so hyped for them.
Yes, they got a massive response from the audience. And I think it's a study in difference between them and Metelkina and Berlava, where, you know, you've got a solid 20-point score difference here, right? Like from the technical side of things, the Georgians definitely have a big leg up on them.
For sure.
But when you want to look at charm and connection and bringing that like sense of life to the audience, Nagaoka and Moriguchi just really had that together. You mentioned the costumes. I loved both sets of the costumes. I think that the ones that thematically fit the Yellow Brick Road really work very nicely. And then when you look at their costumes in the free, just really beautiful. Like hers in particular, like the gradient colors in it, so nice, presents really well on them. And I was thrilled with those programs. I was so surprised, pleasantly surprised, because I already like this team.
Oh, yeah.
But they were very lower middle last
Yes.
season. And this is a significant improvement from them. I thought they were so fun.
I hope it continues all season because it really was a delight. The one other thing worth mentioning is that fourth place here was Plazas and Fernandez from the U.S. This is their first international competition back after a long break due to injury.
Like a full year that they were out because Max had a significant injury.
So really just happy to see them. And fourth place here is, especially in their first return to form, I thought was great, and just happy to have them back.
Yeah, I mean, they're a full 25 points back from the third place finishers. So it's definitely stepping stones and rebuilding to get back to where they were before. But just to have them back in competitive competition is wonderful. So, Val and Max, happy to see you back.
Yes. Let's move on to the women's competition where we saw a delightful.
We saw all kinds of great stuff here and some scary things, but some great stuff.
I was specifically going to say a delightful Monichiba.
Oh my gosh. So Monichiba wins this event handily, a 13-point margin over Kaori Sakamoto. Okay. So put that into perspective here. But Monichiba brought back her short program from last year.
Love.
Which was not the original plan. When we saw her at that earlier sort of preview event for the Japanese audience, she had a different short program. It was cute. That's not the right word for it.
It was elegant, but not necessarily compelling.
Right. And we were a little worried about it. Like, is this going to be the right thing for the season? And instead, she's brought back that Donna Summer short program that she had last year that was so effective at Worlds and so effective over the course of the season, and just really ramps up all of that bright charm that she has and works so well and so exciting. But then her free skate here, just gorgeous.
Yeah, it's Romeo and Juliet. It's just so effective on her. It is so absolutely tailored to an Olympic audience. Like you can feel the movements that are meant to excite a crowd. It's really well choreographed and well measured for her. I love the difference between her two programs because she gets, her ponytail flip in the short program
and the shimmy
that I love.
That's hilarious and so good.
She gets to be so cheeky in that program, and then she is just elegant and divine in the free, and everything just looked pretty effortless. Like she had a few minor bobbles, but for a first international challenger this season, she looked fabulous.
If there's a thing I like as an indicator of what a skater is bringing to the ice, it was seeing Moni go out for the free skate, and she looked quite nervous going out. She had a bit of a pensive expression. She took the center ice and had this just look of nerves. And the moment that the music kicks in, her face changes and she's in character. She is bright and smiling, and then goes into the acting and the drama of that piece. And it's such a night and day switch. And we talk about the skaters who don't bring enough expressiveness to the ice or don't bring enough personality in there. This is the opposite of this. This is where you can see somebody who turns on the character and becomes the role instantaneously. And from there on out, I wouldn't have known that she had nerves because it was so strong. And maybe it was just because she was going in as the last skater in first place over a really strong competitive lineup of other skaters, both Japanese and international. And there's a lot to prove here in this early part of the season, but prove it she did.
She really did. Kaori Sakamoto here, she's ended up with a 203.64, which is a nice score for anybody except Kaori Sakamoto because Kaori is capable of a lot more. But she'd be the first one to admit that. Like this was, as she put it in her post competition interview, she's like, it's basically where she expected for both programs just because she was not really feeling that competitive fire yet. It was hard for her, she said, to feel like a competition just yet. I think that was more in the short than the free. But regardless, both of those programs Like, it's really hard, especially to watch her free skate and not feel that like, oh no, when I'm watching this at the Olympics, I'm going to be bawling my damn eyes out, because you can feel her saying goodbye. And it's hard because she's Cowrie. Like,
I do
ugh.
think that the time to say goodbye short program didn't hit as hard for me here as it did when we saw it in the preview event.
She felt a little more disconnected to
Yeah,
it here.
it wasn't as fully invested. And like you said, she didn't go into this feeling that competitive fire in the same way that we know that Cowrie thrives on. And I felt that in a big way. And I thought that the free skate was terrific overall, despite some little problems with it, but it still just didn't land as well for me. So I'm just waiting for, and it's one of those things where when you have somebody who skates at the level that Kaori Sakamoto does, that her middling performance is better than 80% of the field, but you expect more because it's Kaori Sakamoto, a 3-time world champion and our current reigning world silver medalist. So we know that she is capable of a lot more than what we saw here, and it is just ramping her up to that level.
Yeah, I am 0% concerned. It was just an opening.
Yeah, but if there's a real story out of this event that I was not expecting, and I am delighted to have discovered here, it is the international debut from the 22-year-old Japanese skater Saki Miyake.
She had a gorgeous short program. My favorite thing about it, beyond just the fact that she's super musical, like self-referenced as a late bloomer and was just absolutely lovely here, it is the fact that her jump technique is the most clean version of it you could imagine. Like, it is so textbook. She is done rotating so far in advance that when she comes down, there's no question about that rotation. And I can't say that as much for the free skate.
Sure.
But in her short program, those were the crispest, cleanest triples that I have seen in a while.
She was probably the easiest person to judge because there were no questions to be asked in there.
She just floated across the ice and she was just charming. That's the word that I would use for her.
Yeah, the short program is probably, of everything that we saw from all of the things we're going to be talking about today, is probably like my favorite thing that we saw overall. And part of it, I think, was just the surprise. Here's a skater I don't know in a competition full of names I know very well. And she completely blows me away with that musicality, with that jump technique, with that charm. And for a person who, was making her international debut at 22 and coming off the ice with a look of, oh, I think that went pretty well, and she was in second after the short program. The free, I mean, she had a fall like right off the very first jump, and you could see the nerves and the pressure on her a little bit more. But by the end of it, it really came together nicely. And I'm just very excited to see what she brings. So for my first time, and it's possible that we've seen her in Japanese nationals or domestic or something before. I just didn't recognize her, but I think she's delightful and I was thrilled with her skates here.
I will recognize her going forward.
Yes.
I think my favorite moment of the women's competition actually came from the 4th place finisher of Rinka Watanabe, because her short program was messy and did not go the way she wanted it to go. But she opened her free skate with a triple axel, triple toe.
Mm-hmm.
And Rinka has been talking about the fact that this is very likely her last competitive season and she is throwing it all at the fan. And so she is trying to throw triple axels in both her short and her long. She's throwing 2 triple axels in her free, 1 a solo, which, she did kind of fall out of here, but she did go for it.
And she fell hard on it in the short program.
That was a scary fall. But her combination of the triple axel, triple toe was maybe the best I've ever seen a woman do.
Crisp.
Beautiful. And I love that immediately I saw people talking online like, wait a second, maybe the Japanese Olympic team isn't so set in stone anymore because she's out here throwing some big numbers jumps. And I'm real curious. And we've talked about it many times. Like, we're big fans of Rinka and she's inconsistent.
Yeah.
But if she can get it together this year, it really could be her year.
Well, and she's brought back a couple of programs. I mean, the free skate is a full return from a previous season. The short program was a reworked version.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the 23-24 or 22-23?
22-23.
22-23. And I believe that's the season when she actually won a Grand Prix.
Skate Canada, I believe.
Yes, I think that's right. And check us in the comments if we got that wrong, but I think that sounds correct. But I think that was her most successful season. And I understand why she would return to those, because those programs always looked great on her. They looked really good on her here. Obviously, the short program, she went hard and didn't pay off as well. But yeah, the free dynamite looks so good on her. I love the costume too. It's so
beautiful.
Good. And it's always tough with the Japanese contingent of women because I'm a fan of kind of all of them.
I know.
So I never know who I'm supposed to be rooting for because I really enjoy all of them.
I will be happy with whatever mix of people are on their Olympic team. It's not shocking that my heart is with like Kaori and Wakaba, but also you can't not have Moni on this team, I don't think. But then I'm like, but Rinka, and what about Rion Sumiyoshi if she could come through, or
Hana Yoshida, or Yunaoki, or yeah, oh my gosh, and yeah,
Rino Matsuike.
Oh yeah. I mean, it again, a deep field.
Oh, I get to pull out my Mihara.
Yes,
because you did it to me last.
Yes, yeah. Not here. Several of those names we just mentioned, not here. So,
not here. Just excited
to kind of quickly go through the rest of the lineup here. 5th place was Brady Tennell. I was wrong. After we saw her at the Summer Sizzler, I thought that what she performed there was going to be her short program. It wasn't. It's a gala performance. And I was really excited about that because I really like that program on her a lot. The short program here, it served her pretty well in this competition, but to me, it's not very musical. It's back to that kind of more mechanical style that we see from her sometimes. And I was looking for that deeper musical connection like we saw from her at the Sizzler. It's still very strong. It's still very competent, but it wasn't for me. I like the free skate a lot more. I don't love the costume. The costume's brown and looks brushstroked in a way that, like, at first I was like, is she wearing a cat's costume or something? I didn't know what I was looking at.
I think it's because the music is from The Mission.
The Mission, yeah.
And therefore it's like it's a little thematically on point. But I agree with you. I wasn't that into the costume. It's a gorgeous piece of music from Ennio Morricone, and it's lovely, but
there's a sequence in the middle of it, though, that has what I'm guessing is like a high child soprano,
yes.
And it's slightly off key.
Or at least what we were hearing from the video was.
It might be, yeah. I mean, it could have been messed up there, but I found that, I don't know, it made my ears unhappy when that sequence kicked in, and I don't know if that's how it sounds on the original recording or not, but I didn't like that very much. But I did like that program a lot more on her than the short.
Anyone who has ever watched the film The Holiday will have there's a reference that Jack Black makes to that specific soundtrack. Just throwing it in as a little Easter egg for you. And by the way, watch The Holiday. It's a great movie.
Let's jump around to a few other things here. In 7th place, Korea's Haein Lee, very consistent. 7th after the short, 7th after the free. I thought particularly her Carmen free skate looks really, really nice on her.
Yes.
And already feels fairly confident. The technical content needs to be amped up a little bit to be competitive, but overall I think it was strong.
Love the costume, by the way.
Yes, also great. I actually like the wrist ruffles. I think some people found that kind of distracting. I thought it was good. But if we're going to talk about a costume that was maybe my favorite of everything I saw here, in 8th place, Hana Yoshida. Hana, who was like Rookie of the Year 2 seasons ago, has been a little bit more middle of the pack since then, but such a wonderful skater. Here, her short program is a Kill Bill montage, and she has probably the best costume interpretation of the iconic yellow Kill Bill jumpsuit that I've seen, because we've seen a lot of Kill Bill programs over the years.
Yes.
It's so fascinating to me that such a violent set of films has spawned a fandom in skating.
It's a great soundtrack.
It is a great soundtrack. And, it's a movie about a fierce woman fighting a bunch of fierce women. So I'm here for it. But anyway, I like that short program on her a lot. It didn't work out really well. She was like in 11th with it, but the outfit is super cute. The music cuts are really nice. And I think that it brings back the brightness of her personality that we kind of didn't see as much last season.
Yes.
And I think that's great. And her free skate looked a lot stronger here too. And she's just always so great to see.
The only other thing that I personally really want to mention is Maddie Skizis' short program. Her Black Swan short, where she was in 3rd in the short. She didn't have the best free skate, but that said, I was real impressed with that short program. That is the version of Madeline Skizis that I want to see.
Dark Maddie. I always want to see Dark Maddie. Yeah. I want to see intense, on the edge of anger, highly dramatic Madeline Skeezas. That's when I always enjoy her most, when I feel like she's actually on fire.
Yes, I think that was an impressive short program, and I want to see more of that from her.
Yeah. There was an 11th place finish from Makuba Higuchi, but she was visibly very ill, to the point that when she got done with her free skate, she really kind of couldn't complete a bunch of the jumps. And she was so visibly ill that when she got done, she almost couldn't get off the ice without help. She couldn't stand for quite a while. And when she did, she was repeatedly, obviously, throwing up in her mouth and just like fighting it back. And she had to be helped when she got to the boards. So, she was not in condition to be performing here.
No, and
competing.
probably shouldn't have been competing here.
The fact that she even got it done and that she was as good through her footwork sequence as she was is really impressive, considering she was ready to be violently ill on the ice.
Oh my gosh. I wasn't even going to mention it because I feel like that's just a pass.
Yeah.
Like, let's just pretend that didn't happen.
Yeah, but it's a context thing. Yeah.
It is. Well, I'm going to move us on to the dance because I think it's interesting, and really, I'm just very happy to see it, that we saw, I think it's fair to say, a return to form from Laurent and Legac from Canada, who took this title.
Marie-Jade Laurent and Romain Legac last year fell off quite a bit. They had programs that, despite being very technically proficient, judges hated.
Like, oh, yeah. They were very clear with their messaging.
Yeah.
They were not into those.
They've always been a really quirky team, but like the season before, they were making their way up the ranks, and then they just plummeted out of competition last season. Their quirk just wasn't working for judges, and it was a real shame to see them kind of vanish from the competitive landscape, because every time they performed, they were well back in the pack. Here, they've got 2 new programs that work really, really well. That short program is a great start. They do a Prince program to one of the songs, which I'm not even familiar with. I don't know that I'd ever heard it before. And then one from Prince and the New Power Generation, Cream, which is a very dirty song.
It's a personal favorite of mine.
It is so great.
I love it.
I love it. From the 90s. Yeah. Huge fan of it when it came out. It's only in the program for just a little bit. But
it kind of has to be, because it is really filthy.
Yeah, but it worked really well on them. I do wish they'd kind of sexed it up a little bit in that sequence, just to make it a little bit more sinuous and a little more lascivious. But the program overall is super strong. But I think where it's at is the free dance.
Their free dance is stellar. It's extremely well choreographed and just suits their style, and uses a lot of their kind of signature moves that are distinctly them in it, but in new ways. They switched. They're still at, I Am, as most ice dance teams are these days, but they switched to Scott Moyer's. So I think it's very good.
Yeah. So they left the Montreal camp and they went to Scott Moyer operates out of Ontario, right? So it's still all in the same family.
Yes, but it's like the second school, if you will.
Right, because that's over where like CPOM is at,
yes.
like Prairie and Ponomarenko over there and stuff too. So yeah, you're getting a slightly different flavor when you have like Scott Moyer over there doing it. And he was in their court with them in the Kiss and Cry here. Yeah.
It was a good move. I think that they just looked better than I've seen in a while. So I'm excited to see how these programs progress, especially that long program I'm really into.
Yeah, the free dance has an Egyptian theme. I'm not exactly sure what the music is, but it's beautifully performed. It uses the best parts of their quirk in a much more tasteful way than we've seen over the last couple of seasons. And a few of their signature lifts delivered in such an effective manner. And in particular, just lots and lots of little inventive pieces that they do all throughout that program, where it's just littered with little moments that aren't necessarily an element, but are just choreographic touches and storytelling pieces that are really cool. It is complicated. It has got to be super challenging, and it came off without a hitch here. And the score obviously kind of blew their minds, because they got a huge score for that free dance. They came up with a 197.90 total, which is a really, really good get for them, that it landed them easily at the top of the podium.
I was a little bummed to see the scores for Amelia Zingas and Vadim Kolesnik. I do think that their programs this season suit them really well. I like their short program. It is super 90s with his jacket and very in the club with Amelia. And it's perfect. Like, she looks straight out of like a Britney Spears video.
Oh, yeah.
It's perfect.
I think that rhythm dance is of everything that I've seen, and granted, there's lots we haven't seen yet,
Yes.
this season from the Ice Dancers, but for the 90s thematic, I think that Zingis and Kolesnik's rhythm dance is my favorite that I've seen so far. They really nailed the aesthetic. Everything from the way that they're styled to the choreographic dance elements to the way they use the music, because they're dancing to Poison from Belle Biv DeVoe.
Love.
Absolute banger, perfectly selected. Hell yes. Yeah, it does kind of feel like they're in the club, and the look really, really works on Amelia. Like
Yes.
she looks like she would have been in like a girl group in the 90s.
Yes,
Like it's
she was a
spot
Spice
on.
Girl. Yeah.
I was so happy with it. I thought they delivered that super well.
But it's their free dance.
Yeah.
Their free dance is totally an evolution for them. I feel like it is them maturing before our eyes as a team. I loved their programs last year, especially their free dance was just one of my favorites. This season, it is a complete pivot. It's darker, it's moodier, it's much more classic.
It's much more storytelling oriented.
It is much more character driven, yes. And in the past, I feel like they've gotten accused of being like a little too kitsch, a little too reliant on her singles background with some of their movements. This feels far more like this is a fully formed team, is how I felt when I was watching them.
If we've had a complaint, or at least I've had a complaint in previous seasons as we've watched this team, I've always liked them, but I don't think it was really until the end of last season that they connected with me. And the complaint that I had all the time was I felt like they were really great dancers, and I really like the difference that Amelia brings because of having that singles background, and she's a little more acrobatic than some of the other women are. And I think that just set them apart in an interesting way. But I never felt like their programs were telling a story. I always felt like they were a lot of really cool moves delivered really well, but not something I emotionally connected to. But their free dance last year finally kind of broke through and made them feel very different from they had before. But the evolution here into this free dance,
It's very gothic.
it's intense. It has far more character work in it than what we've seen from them before. I don't know that we've really seen character work from Zingis and Kolesnik before. I mean, to a degree, but not to the level that we're seeing here. This is far more cinematic, far more dramatic, far more evolved. And I was very disappointed in the score that they got here, especially looking at the components, when I think about just like how well they performed it. Now, if we look at scores wise, they were 4 points behind Laurent and Lagak.
And that's probably fair.
Laurent and Lagak's free dance, when we watched them, I was kind of mad about the score with Zingis and Kolesnik. And then I saw Laurent and Lagak perform, and I'm like, oh, okay. All right, I get it. Within the moment here, yes, I will give that to them. But I do think that there was a little disrespect shown to the American team. And
I would have liked a little bit closer, I guess is what
Yeah.
I'd say. And you could tell that they agree.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
especially in the rhythm dance.
Yeah,
I
they-
feel like the free dance, they were a little bit more like, oh, okay, that's about what we expected. The rhythm dance definitely did not get the scores that I think they quite deserved.
Yeah, I'd like a word with somebody over that. In third was Nisette and Markelov from the US. I feel like Nisette and Markelov are essentially kind of the same, or I was talking about with Zingis and Kolesnik were a couple of years ago, where I think they're a team that they got a big bag of tricks, but not a fully mature storytelling kind of aspect
I
happening
think
yet.
they'll get there.
They will. I mean, there's a
Tons of talent.
tremendous amount of talent, but I feel like they're a next quadrennial kind of team. And
Yeah.
and they're still, on the come up. I was a little bummed to see Korea's Hanalim and Yekwon as far back in the pack as they were with a 172.16.
I was really bummed by those scores. And
Yeah.
you could tell that Marie France was also a little baffled
Yeah.
by those scores in the Kiss and Cry. It was a bit of a diss. I think their Men in Black rhythm dance is spot on.
Yep.
Like, it wasn't perfect here, but I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
Their free dance is lovely.
It's gorgeous. And
It was a little slow. It needs some speed.
yes, they were much slower in that program than I would have liked to have seen, but I do think that it is a very mature emotional program. You could clearly see the investment of the emotion in it, and there are a couple of lifts in it that are very striking. The
Stunners.
final lift is so aesthetically cool and so hard, so clearly. I mean, I watched it and I was like, oh, they're giving the middle finger to physics in this moment because I don't even know how you pull this off. It's such an impressive move. I don't know how to describe it other than it's a one leg hold with Hana basically bent in half in front of Ye.
Full split, essentially.
Yeah, well, he's only supporting her by one leg, and it's so impressive. And you could tell that they had just invested a tremendous amount of intention and emotion into it, to the point where it actually kind of almost looked like Hana was going to break up a little bit at the end of it, which is not the kind of thing we normally see from this team, who are generally very kind of happy-go-lucky. And I don't understand the scoring here.
No.
Sometimes Ice Dance is a little bit mystifying with these kinds of things, but clearly Marie France agreed with us.
I think her exact response in the Kiss and Cry was, what?
Yeah. Yeah, it made no sense to me at all. So I don't know what was happening there at all.
Well, let's move on to our last competition of the episode, which was the Bolero Cup, which is a smaller ice dance competition that happened in England. And considering it was a British competition, the reigning favorite Brits absolutely came in, and it was a display of their new programs.
Yeah, this is a mixed bag for me with Lila Fear and Lewis Gibson. So after their shakeup of the ice dance hierarchy last year, where they won 2 Grand Prix events over significant other teams and then placed very well. I mean, they were on the podium at Worlds.
Kicking Guinard and Fabry off of it.
Yes. And although notably beat in the free dance at Worlds by Smart and Deke, and we're really anxiously awaiting the programs from them. But Fear and Gibson really made a hard play to move up the ranks last season, and it paid off. People will talk a lot about how this is a team that is a little bit more entertainment than substance. They don't always have the best skating skills compared to some of the other top teams, but they bring a tremendous amount of crowd appeal. They are just so fun, and they never skate to anything that's quite like anybody else's. I will say here that the rhythm dance, which to most people's delight, their 90s rhythm dance is to the Spice Girls, which
I'm delighted.
Makes perfect sense. I was excited for it. We talked about it in one of our previous episodes. I didn't like it. One, I didn't like the music mix. They went for what I thought were kind of odd choices. I get Spice Up Your Life kind of makes sense, but in general, I was disappointed in the music choices, but that's just on me for having favorites from the Spice Girls canon. But in general, it just left me a little flat. I wasn't super into that rhythm dance.
I enjoyed it a lot more than you did. I do not think that it is a finished piece yet. Like, I felt like that program, I think, is going to get a lot more fun and a lot bigger as it goes along. At least personally, I felt like I was watching a team that was, still trying to remember the choreo in those moments.
Oh, certainly towards the end of it, you could feel that. Yeah.
And I look forward to them being so organically like in the zone with it that they're just selling the hell out of it, because I can see both of their faces in the footwork sequence doing what they do best to Spice Girls and it bringing a house down. So I think it will end up being a phenomenal program. I think right now it's really good.
And it is front loaded with some skating skills. I think
that's very intentional.
Yes, I think that there's a strategy there to say, don't overlook our abilities, forget about that old reputation. We're bringing a lot more to the table than what people like to say about us. And I think that the way that program is set up is there to remind the judges of that right from the beginning. And yeah, it's not unusual for me to be a little lukewarm on some of Fear and Gibson's stuff early on and then watch it come into its own. That I'm sure will probably happen with this. I just didn't particularly enjoy the rhythm dance. But very different story when it comes to the free dance, because I like that an awful lot.
I love it. It's a Scottish themed program that you can see the work that they have put in to really bring a lot of authentic Scottish dance and movement into the program. And the costumes are amazing. The choreo is obviously difficult. Again, I could still feel those times where they were struggling with it. I mean, Lewis is rarely the one who would make a mistake in these programs, and I saw him make maybe the biggest mistake I've ever seen.
Huge error. He almost wipes her out.
Yes. And it does drop them back to second in the free dance, but they still held on for the first place overall. But that program, I think, is going to be really special as we go along. It's really fun. It's explosive. It's intricate. I think it's a perfect choice and vehicle for their Olympic season.
What I think is interesting about that program is how adrenaline filled it felt like at the beginning. Well, actually really throughout. Like, They're fast in that. They're generally a very aggressive team, but they were just covering the ice at reckless speeds through a lot of that program. And I think you could feel how much they like that program
Absolutely.
radiating off of them. They were very excited to skate it, to the point where I think that they got a little too reckless and aggressive with it, which is why Lewis almost wiped her out at one point. I think that like Lila basically had to catch him to keep him on his feet, if I remember correctly. And I didn't wipe out an element or anything, so it didn't knock them down tremendously. I think it just took out some of the components a little bit. But there were a few places in it where it was just a little bit more wobbly. But, if we're looking at, they scored a 199.81 here. If you look at Laurent and Lagac, who essentially skated flawlessly at Kinoshita, and they got a 197.90. So even with some errors, and granted, these are two different competitions with two different sets of judges.
And this is way below Fear and Gibson's like personal best.
Right, yes. They could be a lot higher with this. So they still did very well despite some minor mistakes, although they clearly weren't happy with their score in the free dance. But it didn't really matter because in the end, they were still on top. But they were barely over, about 2.3 points over the second place finish of Allison Reed and Saulius Amberlivikis from Lithuania.
I'm just so happy to see Allison and Saulius doing well.
Yeah.
They have a very big competition in the Olympic qualifier coming up in a few weeks. And seeing them here, I think they're very trained and very ready. Their programs, especially their rhythm dance, felt very lived in.
Yes.
Their free is very Euro. It left me a little cold. I'm not going to lie. I love this team, and I believe that program will grow on me. I don't think it's them. I think it was just the music. I just couldn't connect to it.
So my feelings with this, one, the rhythm dance, which is a mix of I'm Too Sexy and Cantaloupe, which are two like iconic songs from the 90s. Cantaloupe is actually something I've always had a lot of affection for. It is like a period of time from college for me. And so when I hear it, immediately just kind of takes me back to my freshman year. And I thought that the way they deliver those, it harkens back to the 90s so well. The outfits, the vibe that they bring to it, all of it. We've talked a little bit about how, like, whenever you're doing these kind of period pieces, especially when you lived through them, you're looking for that feeling of authenticity. And some of the programs we've seen have just not conjured what we would think of. And the 90s were a really eclectic time in music, so there's a lot to pick from, but still sometimes it feels like people miss the mark. And that program here, I think it works really well on them. They sell it beautifully. It's really fun. It's really cheeky. Terrific. The free skate, they win the free dance here over Fear and Gibson, likely because of that mistake that Fear and Gibson had, but also because it was extremely well executed.
Yeah.
Like you said, there are some challenges in it as far as a few places where things look like they could be a little bit more complete overall. I do agree musically, I don't quite get it. It's a very sparse kind of, I don't want to call it like EDM, but sort of kind of program. I don't know where to classify it as, but it does feel very Euro, very kind of club, not the kind of program I would have picked for a season like this. And so here's my thinking about what the team behind Reed and Amberlivikis are probably thinking. They go through this season and hopefully secure that position for the Olympics at this next event, because
Fingers
contextually,
and toes crossed.
if you remember back to Worlds, they had a freak fall at Worlds in the rhythm dance that wiped them out of the free dance. So they did not secure a spot. So they're in that wildcard position where they have to go to that event in a couple of weeks in order to secure an Olympic spot. And they're a terrific team. They should be capable of it, but we won't know what will happen when it gets to that. But strategically, to my mind, if they get through the season and they're closing in on the Olympics, if they qualified for it, and this free dance isn't working the way they want it to, they go back 2 seasons and they do Enough of Our Machines, which was
such a good program.
One of my favorite ice dance programs ever. Very notably won them the bronze at Europeans. That was at home in Lithuania, but was flawlessly executed at that event. It is a storyteller program. It is sonically rich and perfectly performed. And as long as they have the musical clearance, because that's such a mess now, I feel like keeping that in their back pocket to pull back out if this one doesn't perform with them in an Olympic year would make perfect sense.
I feel like that's some wishful thinking, but I like it. I like you manifesting that.
I don't feel like it's wishful thinking at all. I think it's just strategy. I mean, we see lots of skaters and teams revert in the Olympic year to earlier programs because they're trying to put out their best stuff. Now, with ice dance, of course, because the rhythm dances are thematically mandated, you don't have that option going for you. But I would not be surprised if, a couple of teams don't do that as they get later into the season, as they try to get something that they think will maximize their moment at the Olympics. So
it's possible.
I'm saying that should be in their back pocket again, unless there are some factors that would not allow for it. But I think having a program that strong in your repertoire that you could resurrect if you need to would be very, very valuable to Reed and Amber Livicus. Also, this program is still really good. I just don't quite get it, but it's less charactery. Last year they had the sort of Puppet Master program,
which I enjoyed.
It was good, but it wasn't as good as the previous seasons, and it wasn't hitting for the judges in the same way.
Yeah.
This feels like a very different approach compared to that, and we'll just see how it continues to pay off for them. They got a 197.50 here, and they scored a really great score for that free dance, and overall, they were very happy with what they came up with here. So I don't think there's any reason for them to be disappointed in anything they accomplished here, because it was really strong and they were very tight on Fear and Gibson's heels, and they did win the free dance here. The proof in the pudding is really that qualifier event.
Yes. And rounding out the podium was Holly Harris and Jason Chan, who I think had a really nice come up last season. Their free dance was especially wonderful last season.
Never scored high enough.
Never, ever.
That free dance last year, and which they brought back for this season, which was a good choice.
I'm glad they did.
It's a stunner, but the judges never quite gave them what I think it deserved.
I hope that this season changes that with this program. I was a little cold on their rhythm dance. I just thought it was fine. Like, it didn't get me excited. But yeah, I really, really am impressed with the progress they've made as a team. And that free dance is beautiful. So I'm just happy to see them on a podium. And I hope that they continue to grow and impress more. Like,
yeah,
they're really solid.
I think that, when you look at Harris and Jan, they're very similar to like a Lim and Kwan, not just because Holly Harris and Hannah Lim are essentially inseparable besties. But
very cute.
Yes, they're adorable. But they're very much like next quadrennial teams.
Yeah, they're very young.
They're young. They have a bedrock of really strong abilities, but they're, still a little behind the top teams. And they both typically seem to deserve better than the judges give them. And it does feel a little bit like holding them in their place, which I don't care for. But I think that both of them should just be logging those experience points on the way to a long career with a lot of further successes later on, is my hope.
Well, next week, we're going to have a big one. We're getting into the real because Lombardia Trophy is this coming weekend.
Yeah, but before we talk about that, there's a very important thing that we have not done in our last couple of episodes that we need to do now.
Oh my gosh, I almost forgot again.
Yeah, we need to do Gold in Our Hearts.
Oh my gosh.
The last couple of episodes, because it's still been kind of smaller competitions and stuff, we just weren't really thinking about it. But if you're new to the show, a feature of most of our episodes is what we call Gold in Our Hearts, which is where we give out our gold medals individually. Wendy and I both do one to the skater or team that we most enjoyed. Typically not somebody who got to the top of the podium, but that we most enjoyed otherwise from everything that we saw that week. And we just haven't done it in the last couple of episodes. So yeah, we really need to hit who is Gold in Our Hearts this week. I have a sneaking suspicion we'll have the same answer, but I'm going to give it to you to let you do that answer.
My answer is Nagoka and Moraguchi, the pairs team from Japan that scored the bronze medal here. I was just so happy to see this team come forward so much. I don't know. I felt like it was an awakening of a young team that really impressed me so much. It is a rare moment for me to be watching a pairs performance and be like, that entrance that Sumitada just made into that death spiral. Wow, so much better. Like, these are the things I was noticing because it was all the little details. that you can tell that they have put in the work. And it just made me so happy to see their joy. And I really have a whole new kind of barrel of hopes for this team.
Well, like I said, I'm not surprised because we have the same answer. Mine is also Nagaoka and Moraguchi. So,
I was not prepared for sound effects.
I'm sorry. After a couple of weeks of operating on some old gear because our previous soundboard had broken,
it died.
It completely died. We got it replaced, and I never hit the buttons on it to use the sound effects or whatever, and I just felt the need to do it this time. So don't worry, that won't be something I do all the time, but it did amuse me.
Don't Adam Rippon this.
Right, exactly.
And I say that with much love for Adam Rippon because I love that guy.
Normally I don't go in for that kind of thing on our show, but this particular instance, it entertained me. Anyway, yes, Nagaoka and Moraguchi were terrific. They were so charming. I was so impressed by the way that they delivered here. Absolutely wonderful. But a special shout out to Saki Miyake.
Yes.
The third place finisher in the women's, the self-professed late bloomer who showed up here in an international competition for the first time at 22, which is just so impressive. And particularly her short program, lovely. And I really enjoyed her energy. All of that was terrific, but really a nice week of skating with a lot of good stuff.
Yes. So as I started saying before Adrian rightly corrected me, Lombardia Trophy.
Lombardia Trophy. Oh man. And we
it's a big one because we're going to get our first look in the women's at Seon Kim, Ryon Sumiyoshi, Rino Matsuoike, and the reigning world champion, Alyssa Liu.
Yeah.
Sarah Everhart. It's a big one. On the men's side, even more like hold your breath because you've got the debuts of Ilya Malinin, Yuma Kageyama, Adam Shohim-Fa is back in his international debut and that we'll finally get to see. So I'm excited about that. Matteo Rizzo, Nicolai Memela. In the pairs, we're going to have an Italian showdown because it's Ghiardi and Ambrosini. We're going to see the first return of Bakari and Guarisi. We haven't seen them in a while.
It's been a long time.
New Papa.
Yeah. Matteo Guarisi's wife just gave birth, and so they have their first child. So
sweet.
Yeah, it's terrific. There's some really cute photos of him holding the baby. Super proud dad moment. So super
cute.
Awesome. But we haven't seen them in so long.
I know.
So I'm really excited to see them again.
And then we're also going to have Kanti and Machi debuting there.
Yeah, so all three of them. And we've been seeing those three teams doing dance training and stuff together, which has been really sweet. We've always known that Bakari and Guarisi and Ghiardi and Ambrosini are very close, but often it felt like Kanti and Machi were kind of off on their own in a different training camp. So actually seeing all three of those teams doing stuff together has been really fun. But yeah, that's the Italian front coming in hot.
It's going to be a big week. Ooh, and we're also in the women's competition. Speaking of Italians, we're going to see the debut of Lara Naki-Gutman, which is always exciting.
Oh my gosh. And she always brings such a unique energy.
Did you see she's doing Jaws?
Oh, that makes perfect sense.
I know.
I mean, coming from somebody who has now done Squid Game and a Hitchcock program, Laura Naki-Gutman doing Jaws is so spot on.
It's great. I'm so into it.
Yeah, that's going to be fascinating.
I know.
I'm
excited.
Such a interesting perspective from her. I love it.
I love her.
Well, look forward to that upcoming episode. And in the comments, let us know who was gold in your heart for this week from any of these events. Were you able to watch all of this stuff? Because we had to catch all of it really piecemeal.
If not, what was your favorite moment on social media? Mine was, I was so excited to see Sonia Hilmer getting to go to Japan to be a competitor at Kinoshita Cup because she's never gotten to compete in Japan. So her Instagram was delightful.
Yeah,
this
she
week.
Didn't have the best competition, particularly her free skate had a lot of problems. It looked really rough. She looked very tired.
Her short program looked wonderful.
Short program was still really nice. Not quite as good as what we saw earlier in
at Cranberry Cup.
At Cranberry Cup. But, they're really nice programs. She just kind of looked exhausted. But yeah, for her first time being in Japan, I imagine that had to have been really, really exciting. So, and we're such big fans of Sonia. So, but yeah, what did you think of the assisted backflip in the pairs competition? What did you think about some of these new free skates and rhythm dances? Let us know in the comments. We always love hearing what you guys have to say. And until that Lombardia Trophy recap, for Choreography, I'm Adrian Buskey.
I'm Wendy Buskey.
We will talk to you next time.
Bye.